History is filled with tales of elite warriors. We have the Spartans of Greece, the Roman Praetorian Guard, and the Knights Templar. But honestly, few carry the same aura of mystique and invincibility as the Immortals. They were not just soldiers. They were a symbol of the great king's power and a seemingly unstoppable force. Imagine facing an army where every man who falls is instantly replaced. This wasn't magic. Brutal, terrifying, a brilliantly effective system. They were a constant presence, a river of men that never ran dry, a force that appeared to be truly undying. Their name, whispered by their enemies in a mix of awe and terror, became a legend. The Greek historian Herodotus, our primary source for these fighters, called them the Athanatoi, the Deathless. This name wasn't born from belief in supernatural powers. It came from a stark and intimidating reality of military logistics and psychology. The origins of this elite force are tied directly to the founding of the Achaemenid Empire itself. The man credited with their creation is none other than Cyrus the Great, the visionary leader who, in the 6th century BCE, forged a collection of disparate tribes into the largest empire the world had yet seen. Cyrus understood that to control such a vast and diverse territory, he needed more than just a large army. He needed a core of utterly loyal, highly disciplined, and exceptionally skilled soldiers who could act as his personal guard and the unbreakable spine of his military. Thus, the Immortals were born, drawn from the elite of Persian society and Median society. Their connection to the king was absolute. They were not merely soldiers for hire or conscripts pulled from farms. They were the king's men, first and foremost. This bond was cultivated from the very beginning. Under Darius the Great, the Immortals' role was further solidified. Darius credits his loyal followers in the Behistun inscription. It is widely believed the core of this loyal force was the Immortals, showcasing their political role in stabilizing the throne. When Xerxes I ascended the throne, he inherited this formidable institution. For him, the Immortals were a vital tool of statecraft and conquest. They traveled with the king wherever he went, forming a glittering ring around his person. Becoming one of the 10,000 was not a privilege available to everyone. The selection process was incredibly rigorous and exclusive. First and foremost, a candidate had to be of Persian, Median, or Elamite noble birth, a unit drawn from the ruling class. From a young age, these sons of the aristocracy were groomed for a life of service. Their education focused not on philosophy, but on brutal, practical skills. The training regimen was relentless, built to forge endurance, discipline, and mastery of arms. They endured long marches with minimal food and water, exposure to harsh weather, and sleeping in the open. Young recruits mastered horsemanship and archery, becoming one with their mounts. They learned to fire a bow with deadly accuracy, on foot and from horseback. Masters of the spear and the Acheneses, trained for both ranged and crushing close combat. Yet life in the Immortals was a privilege. Ornate tents, special food, baggage trains, attendants, and comfort off the battlefield. By giving them superior lifestyle, the great king reinforced elite status and loyalty. Noble lineage, brutal training, and privilege, a warrior caste unlike any other, bound by a code of honor and a deep belief in their superiority. Their discipline was legendary. Herodotus notes their quiet, orderly march. When the Immortals approached, you saw discipline personified, confident, professional, and utterly dedicated to destruction. The appearance of the Immortals on the battlefield was a spectacle in itself, a deliberate display of wealth and imperial might designed to awe and intimidate. Unlike the minimalist armor of their Greek adversaries, the Immortals were arrayed in magnificent, colorful attire. They wore richly decorated tunics or robes, often featuring intricate embroidery and vibrant dyes, showcasing the vast wealth of the Persian Empire. Over these garments, they wore a corselet of scale armor, described as looking like the scales of a fish. These iron or bronze scales on leather or linen backing provided protection while allowing movement. Their primary weapons reflected versatile combat doctrine. Each Immortal carried a short spear tipped with iron, shorter than the Greek doru. The butt end featured a pomegranate or apple-shaped counterweight, silver for common soldiers, gold for the king's personal thousand. These pomegranates earned them the name Arstibara, the spear-bearers. They also carried a large wicker shield, the Geron, covered in leather to protect against missile fire. For close quarters, they wielded the akinasis, a stabbing short sword deadly in melee. But perhaps their most feared weapon was the composite bow. The Persians were master archers, and the Immortals were the best. They could unleash volleys that darkened the sky and disrupted enemy formations before closing for brutal hand-to-hand combat. This combination of missile power and heavy infantry prowess made them a complete and formidable fighting force, both archer and spearman, switching roles fluidly as battle demanded. The most legendary chapter written in blood and fire was Xerxes' invasion of Greece. After sweeping through northern Greece, the Persian army found its path blocked at Thermopylae. Here, a small force of Greeks led by Leonidas' 300 Spartans held the pass. For 2 days, Xerxes launched wave after wave against the Greek phalanx, but narrow terrain favored the defenders. Spartan spears and bronze shields formed an impenetrable wall that repulsed Persians. Persians suffered heavy casualties and frustration mounted among Xerxes' troops. Frustrated by the failure of his Median and Scythian troops, Xerxes unleashed his ultimate weapon. He ordered the Immortals under General Hydarnes to break the deadlock. 10,000 elite soldiers marched in silent, disciplined ranks, the pride of the empire. Yet even the famed Immortals could not break the Spartan line in the choke point. The battle turned on betrayal. Ephialtes revealed a hidden path that let Persians bypass the pass. Xerxes sent Hydarnes and his Immortals along that route. They marched through the night and surprised the Phocian guards. When dawn broke, Leonidas and his allies realized they were surrounded. While most retreated, Leonidas stood firm. They were overwhelmed by the Immortals and other Persian troops attacking from front and rear. Thermopylae was sobering for the Immortals. It proved they were not invincible. They fought again at Plataea, where the invasion was crushed. Plataea marked the end of Xerxes' ambitions in Greece and tarnished his legendary guard. While their battles in Greece are the most famous, the Immortals were instrumental across the empire for over 2 centuries. Their primary role was to act as the decisive force, shock troops held in reserve and committed at critical moments. Before Xerxes, the Immortals had already carved out an empire. They were the sharp end of Cyrus the Great's conquests. They played central roles in taking Lydia and the mighty city of Babylon. In these campaigns, their discipline and skill provided a reliable core around which diverse Persian armies were built. They were a mobile imperial fire brigade, dispatched to the furthest corners of the empire to crush rebellions and enforce the great king's authority. When Egypt revolted, it was often the Immortals who led the vanguard to bring the province back in line. On the eastern frontiers, their presence was a chilling reminder of the consequences of defying the empire. Their reputation often preceded them. The news of their approach could quell dissent without a spear thrown. The Immortals were a crucial element of Persian strategy, hard power backing soft governance. The Achaemenid model incorporated conquered peoples but always backed autonomy with overwhelming force. The Immortals embodied that force. They were the steadfast pillars upon which the entire imperial edifice rested. Every victory, every new province added to the map owed a debt to the 10,000 silent, disciplined warriors. They formed the unbreakable heart of the Persian army. The Achaemenid Empire eventually fell, conquered by another military genius, Alexander the Great. At Gaugamela, the Immortals fought bravely near Darius III, but could not stop the Macedonian phalanx and Alexander's tactics. With the fall of their empire, the original Immortals vanished from history. Yet their name and legend would not disappear. Later empires revived the concept, most notably the Sasanian Jayeden, their own Immortals. The legacy of the Immortals blends military strategy with psychological warfare. Keeping unit strength constant to create an illusion of invincibility was theater as much as tactic. Reputation, carefully cultivated and fiercely defended, is a weapon. Their story proves the power of discipline, elite training, and unwavering loyalty. They set the template for elite royal guards for centuries. Today, the Immortals live on in films, comics, and video games, fictionalized but echoing the original power of the legend. Surviving art, especially the glazed brick reliefs from Susa, gives us a haunting glimpse of their proud bearing and ornate robes. Their deadly weapons are frozen in time, yet still radiate authority. The lesson for us is excellence and identity. Chosen for the best, trained to perfection, held to the highest standards, they formed a corporate identity, skill and dedication proven on every battlefield. The 10,000 may be gone, but their echo on history's battlefield is, in its own way, immortal.